Think of happiness, we always think of happiness as like a big boom in our life, a big change, going to another city, getting a promotion. I don't know, the big project that you always dreamed of, getting a huge amount of money. Huga is just the opposite. Don't focus on the big things, focus on the little things, because that's where true happiness lies, right?
Welcome back to More Than Just a Girl, the podcast where we highlight women breaking those glass ceilings in the different fields that they're in. Like the lady we have with us here today, Miss Carmelita Ruiz Coello. I said it correct?
That's right, yes.
Today we'll be speaking with Miss Carmelita, who has a bachelor's degree in psychology and a master's degree in family science. So Carmelita, could you tell us a little bit about yourself? Give us a little bit of your background so that the listeners today can know who is Carmelita Ruiz Coello.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the space, for being here. I am really excited because I get to connect with more people from Belize. I am from Belize. I have been living here for more than 20 years now, but I am Belizean at heart. It's really exciting for me to be here and to be able to talk to your audience. I studied psychology, like you said, and then I went on to do a master's degree that specializes on the topic of family therapy. This has always been my passion, working with families and like the different elements within the family. So I decided that that was the way to go. I've been doing some work with through therapy, online therapy, through my business, with individuals as well, families, couples, which is one of my favorite kind of therapy. And also some webinars that I am working on, coaching sessions for people in different institutions. So it's been very, very rewarding, very gratifying to do all this work with all these different stories and these beautiful individuals that I get a chance to interact with.
So you've studied in Belize and Mexico, and you've worked in both countries, well, with people from both countries. How is that multicultural experience like? I know Mexico is our neighbor, and people expect us to be very similar, but I don't believe we're that similar as others because the idiosyncrasies are a little different. Our culture is a little different. So what is that like?
Actually, really different. When I got to Mexico so many years ago, um, I thought my Spanish was really, really good at that time because my mom was originally from Guatemala. So she always emphasized that we had to learn Spanish and English at the same time. So at home, we would talk Spanish, and in school, everything was in English, as you know. So I got that. I always say it's a blessing because I got the chance to have the two languages at the same time, Spanish and English. So when I got here, I said, this is going to be a piece of cake. I know Spanish. This is going to be really easy. It turns out it was not. My Spanish does not compare or did not compare at that time with Mexican Spanish. It's a whole new world. So that was the first thing that I had to work with. The fact that my Spanish was maybe like an intermediate Spanish compared to native speakers of Spanish here in Mexico. So that was the first challenge, taking all my classes in Spanish. And I always remember that I had my group of friends, and every time they started joking, they would start playing around with words, right? Like the famous albur here in Mexico, which is double meaning, right? And so they would start joking around with that. And I had no idea why they were laughing. It was really hard for me to catch up. It's very different now. I'm really good with albur now. Um, but that was sort of the challenges, right? The language, also the weather is very different here in Puebla. really cloudy and it's very cold most of the time, which is different from Belize because Belize is usually very hot, right? We get the four stations here. So we have winter, spring, so we in autumn right now. And that's another thing. The music is different. The people are different. The traditions, like you said, the way of thinking, the food is so different. I had to change, my rice and beans for enchiladas and pozole. And, it was like a really, really big change. But for all those people listening out there, because I know that you focus this show for especially for women, for those young women out there that are or have the possibility of leaving their country, Belize, to go out to study to another country, I would say do it. For me, it has been the greatest experience ever. Changed my life. It gave me such a different perspective on things and the way that I solve things. Made me grow up so much being away from my family. Well, it was challenging, but definitely one of the best experiences I had coming from Belize to Mexico.
Than that because I studied in Cuba, and at the beginning it was challenging, and I didn't know albur is what you call it, but yes, their Spanish has a double meaning also to almost every other word, and it was a little difficult to catch up at first, but studying abroad opens up your view on everything. Because in Belize, we have a certain culture, a certain mindset, certain things that are taboo, certain things that are socially acceptable. I do encourage, if you get a chance, even if it's just a semester abroad, it's always good because it opens up your mind to look at life different in a different perspective. What inspired you to choose psychology?
Yeah, I was thinking about this the other day, when we were talking, and I said I have to share this when we do the recording. I actually came here to study something else, I came here to study medicine. I wanted to be a doctor. And I came to do the admission exam. And it turns out a couple of days before I actually did the exam, I talked to a doctor and he asked me if I was willing to sacrifice being with my family to be studying because that's what many doctors do, right? They spend a lot of time, holidays, etc. They have to do a lot of sacrifices. And that moment for me was, you know what? This is not what I want to do. I don't want to sacrifice this. I want to have the best of both worlds. I want to work with people. I want to help people, but I also want to have time to be with my own family. And that was the moment that I said, I want to study psychology because that's really close to that one. More like the organic part, the body. I'm going to focus on the inside, right? So I changed that one for that. And that's how the dream started of being a psychologist. Turns out, like many of my friends tell me, and my patients too, that I have this ability of listening to people. I think that's one of the strongest points is I actually listen to what people have to say. And that's a big, big plus for a psychologist to actually to read between the lines, right? Because when you have people in therapy, many times they will tell you, oh, so how is this and how are you feeling or like that? And we are like almost, I don't know if I should say the word trained. We are trained to say that we are okay, right? um, Automatically, if, when you're learning English, they tell you, "How are you? Fine, thank you." That's the response that you should have this question all the time. Even if you're not, that ability to read in between the lines of, yeah, you're saying that, but I know something's not right. That has been a big plus for me. So that's how it all started. That's how the dream started.
Psychology, I believe, like anything else that you study, is one thing is in the books, one thing is what you learn at school, in the university, and another thing is actually practice. I know for as an engineer, I mean, we learn to design, On paper, everything's perfect. But then you go to the site and everything is completely the opposite. So I imagine that it is the same or very similar for your field. Could you tell us a little about that comparison, what you learned at school versus what you're actually doing now?
Yes, yes. And I was thinking about that movie from Steve Jobs, because I think that's a good example of what happened with me as well. You know that Steve Jobs started the university, right? But he couldn't like abide by the system. So he kind of like said, one day I decided, this is not for me. This is not what I want. I'm just gonna go and build what I want for even though the Apple is everywhere now, right? Um, so for me, it was like that part of reading the books, memorizing sections from books, doing the exams and getting a really high note. Like I was really into the books. I did a lot of studying, a lot of um surprise, surprise, when you're out there with your patient in front of you, a real person, not somebody that has been described in a book. It's a whole new story. I think that's one of the things that has enriched my career so much, that with every patient that I have, with every story that I get, because I think everyone has a different story, going back and, doing that investigation based on that person, reading more books, finding people that can help you with questions that you have, different mentors along the way, um, so many things coming together, that I think that's where the juicy part is of psychology. Now this it's like a big puzzle that they set in front of you, like that one of those big puzzles with 1,000, 2,000 pieces. So I don't know if it were not one of those, you don't even know where to start. Well, it's something like that. You have all the pieces in front of you, and you have to start putting them together. And the interesting part here is that sometimes the patients unconsciously hide certain things because it's embarrassing, because they don't want to talk about it. And you eventually get to the center of, the situation, to the center of what it is really that is making the patient feel the way that they feel. So that's the fabulous part about it, right? Going from the books, going from a theory to real life with real people.
So, talking about real lives and real people, you have Reinventando Familias, Reinventing Families. Could you tell us about that project that you have going on?
It started some years ago, 2015 to be exact. Um, I was doing teaching at that time at a university. It's a private university here in Florida. And I wanted to do something more. I wanted to go to the part of actually giving therapy, because at that time I was more just teaching, right? Um, so I started this project focusing specifically on families here in Mexico, offering counseling and maybe even online therapy. At that time, that was originally the idea, to work with family. And so after some time, um, that was 2015, I stopped the project for a while because I was focusing on my kid. My kid was like 3 years old at that time. So I wanted to focus more on him. So I kind of put the project aside. And then that was 2020. My second son came along. So he was born in 2020. And that was COVID and all of these things that happened at that time, right? Still with the idea of working with family. I decided to change the name to Reinventando Vidas, which is the name now, to include more people, not just family, not to focus just on family, but individuals, couples, etc. I wanted to work with everybody that needed help. It was actually 2022. My son, the little one at that time, he was 1 year and 9 months at the time. And he had an accident. He fell down the stairs from the second first floor to the first floor. And fortunately, miraculously, nothing happened to him. Maybe a couple of scratches. That was it. But something changed in me. I was so, you could say, traumatized by that experience that I began to have panic attacks and, well, anxiety attacks and then panic attacks. And if you know a little bit about anxiety, well, the highest form of anxiety is a panic attack, where you literally feel you're dying. That's it, right? That's how bad it get. Yeah. I ended up at the emergency room times. And I swear, I told my husband, this is it. I am so happy and with you. Thank you so much for the wonderful years we have had and our two kids. I literally thought that was it. And so I got to the hospital and it was the same doctor, fortunately, the two times. But he's like, you're about to here again. Um, take my blood pressure, oxygen level, COVID test, everything was okay. There was nothing wrong. So he says, you know what? I think you are having panic attacks. And for me, it was like, I'm the psychologist here. What happened? Like, what's going on? I should know this, all those books and all those articles and all that information. And I don't know that I'm having this. And anyway, I went through this whole process where I was no longer the therapist. I was no longer the psychologist. I was the patient. Being on the other side, experiencing what real anxiety is, not reading it in the books, that changed my perspective. And after months, it was like 6 months of taking courses and reading and doing meditation and journaling and everything I could think of to feel better, aromatherapy, you name it, I did it. I said, I need to turn this around. It's time that I turn this around. And that's when I decided to start doing the next phase, which was webinars. So giving webinars about different topics because I wanted to share my experience going through this hell that I went through for all these months with people that I knew were not having such a good time. And I wanted them to know that no matter how bad it gets, there's always something you can do about it, and you are not alone. Definitely. I can say that. I can't say that enough. So look for help, ask people, get your support network together. It's going to make a difference. And my first webinar was actually being reborn from anxiety. That was the name of that first webinar because that's what happened to me. It was my rebirth. It was my second opportunity in life to put my skills at the service of people, to be able to give them that chance, that hope that things can be okay when everything seems like it's lost. And that's when webinars began. That was 2022. And from then, I've been adding other things like coaching, and I've had a lot of good response from people in Belize. I'm really, really happy and, touched by that. Um, and one, that's how it has been evolving from all of them.
That's a really heavy stuff. That anxiety and panic attack scenario. I know that as women, I personally, like I told you before, I personally experience a lot of pressure because I'm in a male-dominated field, right? So I believe that sometimes we put the pressure on ourselves as women. We're the wife, the woman, the mother, the engineer, you know, the professional. We're everybody, all in one. And sometimes we set these expectations of ourselves and for ourselves that sometimes may be a little bit unrealistic, and we break. I can tell you last week, I think I almost broke. Last week, I was having something similar to a panic attack, and I was going through a whole lot. I know that it's not always easy to accept that you're not perfect, that things happen, that some things are beyond your control. And the biggest issue with that is the stigma that comes with trying to address your mental health. Because if you go to a psychologist or a coach or a therapist, you must be crazy, right? Because that's the only reason that you could possibly need somebody to talk to. Not because sometimes life gets challenging, but because you're crazy. That's the stigma behind mental health. How would you advise someone to seek therapy, or I don't know how best to ask this question. What do you think would be a way to encourage people to take care of their inner self? Because we take care, we, like you said last time, if your tooth hurts, you go to the dentist. If you fall off the stairs and you break your arm, you go to the doctor. But what happens when you can't physically see the hurt? And how do you advise someone or encourage someone to deal with that mental hurt, that internal hurt that they have? The internal.
How do you deal with that? I want to go back just a little bit about what you were saying on the last episode that you uploaded, because I got a chance to see it. I actually saw it 2 times. I wanted to hear. I really wanted to hear what you had to say. Um, and so you were talking about how it had been a really hard week, juggling. That's the word that I like to use. Juggling, trying to keep everything going in the air, right? Being a wife, being a mom, an engineer, a professional, your podcast that you do so wonderfully, and all the million things that go in between, right? That sometimes go unseen, right? All of those things. It's not easy. It's not easy. And I was thinking about you since I saw that episode the last couple of days, and I say, how can I integrate this information with what Rami was saying in her podcast? And this is what I came up with. Um, this week for me was also difficult in the sense of there was a lot to do, right? A lot of things going on. And this shift that I have to make between 1 minute I'm sitting in front of the computer, selling a webinar or sending out an invoice, people to make payments, etc. And then I have to go to the kitchen to prepare something to eat for my kids. It's a big shift going from the entrepreneur or from the business lady to the mom. And then the little one needs to go to the bathroom. So you're doing the cleaning too. And it's like that big shift going on every minute. You have to be shifting. You have to be putting on these different suits every time, right? According to the situation. First thing that I want to say, Rami, is it's it's not um it's not a bad thing that you feel this way, because what we're doing is really, really complex and tiring. It's not something easy. So that's the first thing. Accepting the fact that we are doing a lot of things and that it's fine that we get tired and that we feel frustrated and that we feel like things are not going the way that they should be going. There are days like that. I once saw a meme that said, sometimes being productive looks like this. And it showed a mom, a stay at home mom, just lying on the sofa. That's how productive that day was, right? And there are going to be days like that. I think we are not only asked to do a lot of things, women, but we are asked to do them perfectly. And I think that's where the problem lies, in the fact that we are demanding from ourselves that we do things in a perfect way, right? And I think the way that you could like balance that out is understanding that whatever it is that you do, because every day you get up and you go to work and you do this and you do that, the fact that you are showing up to do whatever you have to do is perfect. That's the perfect part. That's the perfect part. Not what happens after, not what you do or the way that you do it. It's the idea that I was able to get up and show up to do what I have to. That's the medal right there. That's the award. That's the achievement for the day. I'm here, I'm showing up, right? And that's it, right? No expectations. This thing about expectations, such a big thing. And this is something that I learned just a couple of months ago. We have a lot of expectations about people and about situations. And that's where the problem lies. We expect too much sometimes. When you stop expecting, when you stop judging that part, because that's part of it, judging, things just begin to feel a lot lighter and maybe even happier and maybe even better, right? Who's judging the work that you do as a mom? Who's giving you a grade, right? Who's gonna put the exam in front of you and decide if you pass your test as a mom today? Or who's gonna decide if if you did great as an entrepreneur in your podcast today? Who's gonna decide that? We do. It comes from us. So if you open up to that possibility, you know what? I'm here. I'm showing up. I'm doing this. Then 100%. Excellent. Job well done. Everything you do after is just extra. It's extra from the 10 that you already have. That's extra points right there. So what you were saying in your podcast about, sometimes, like you said, I don't remember the exact words that you said, but you said something similar to like, uh, you're showing up or you're good enough has to be enough, something like that. I think those were some of the words you said. That's exactly what I'm saying here. Different words, same message. It is good enough, right? And if you tell yourself that, if you say, this is good enough, this is what I can contribute to the world today, and it is absolutely valuable what I'm doing here, even if it's lying on the couch. I'm here. I'm here taking care of my kids, right? Because I'm lying on the couch, but I'm keeping an eye on them. So I'm still being a mom and I'm still looking at them and I'm still making sure that they're. And that's what we do. That's what we do as moms or any other challenge that comes our way. So, yeah, that is good enough. We telling ourselves, what are we feeding ourselves? Go back to the thoughts because everything begins with the thought. Okay. Say, I'll give you an example. There was this patient, um, and she was working at a call center. So she had to take calls, and the calls were from the users. Many of them were angry or they were putting up claims, and it was a very stressful job. And she got her evaluation, and the evaluation wasn't so good because a client commented that, he had whatever issue with her. And so her boss comes to talk to her, and she immediately starts to think, oh my God, this is it. I had a horrible evaluation. They're going to fire me. I want to lose my job. I won't have money to do the things that I have to do. I take care of my parents, so I won't be able to pay for their needs or my needs. And what am I going to do? And she was like 1,000 years ahead from the real situation. The evaluation wasn't that bad when she got the feedback in the end. She didn't get fired. She still has it. She's going out of the country right now on a trip. That's how good it got, right? 99% of the thoughts that we have are usually negative, and 99% of those thoughts never come true. That's how good the situation is. So what are you going to think of today? If you begin thinking, I am doing my best, I am showing up, I am a great mom, I'm doing everything I can, I'm putting my heart into this. If that's the thought that you're feeding yourself, then the feeling that you're going to get is going to be amazing. And the actions that you're going to take based on those feelings are also going to be amazing. If you reverse that and you start feeding yourself negative thoughts, right? You will feel horrible. So you have bad feelings and you start acting upon those feelings because we send out the message of, oh my God, what a horrible day today is. And I guarantee that it's going to be a horrible
It
day.
just gets worse.
It gets worse. So you can make little changes to turn that shift around. And one of those changes is, like we said the last time, your mindset, because it all begins with your thoughts. Okay. Think about those little things that make you happy. I always say that. I always say that. I think we should all have little things that make us happy. And we do. Sometimes we forget to turn to them, but we have to. Um, Listen to uplifting music. That's a big one. Listen to uplifting music. One of my favorites that always gets me out of the hole is Bob Marley, Three Little Birds. That's like my anthem. Every time it's like, everything is going to be all right. Everything is going to be all right, Bob. I believe you. Everything is gonna be all right. Play your music. It's actually been proven that the brain begins knows like different waves for it to form because of music. Music is magic. The next thing is, no matter how bad it gets, no matter how dark it gets, it's always going, the sun is always going to come up. It's part of it. There was this phrase that I like very much that says, when it's the darkest, right? It's when the sun begins to come up. And that's exactly it. In the wee hours of the morning, 4, 5, that's when it's darkest. And the sun always comes up. So just let the moment pass, you know, accept that the moment is not so great and try to, live out the moment with the best attitude that you can. And it's going to be over before you know it.
Yeah, well, I do agree with you that if you start off the day thinking that things are horrible, they just get worse. Because I think that's what happened to me last week. And this week I said, you know what I can't accomplish, I won't accomplish. I'll do it one day at a time. And I mean, it's just been two days so far in this week, but I feel a little bit more positive than I felt last week because I promised myself I can't stay in that hole because then I get bogged down and I'm less able to complete my tasks because I feel so flustered that I can't focus on simple tasks that would take me 10 minutes. It takes me an hour and I'm stuck there. Waking up and saying, you know what, today's going to be a good day. I'm going to make the best of it. Things start to look more positive. Look at the silver lining, like they say. So I started to do that this week and it's so far, it's not a perfect week, but it could be worse and it's not going to get worse. Oh, like Bob Marley says, everything's going to be all right. And we just have to believe that too, because the guy knew what he was talking about. At the end, it has to be all right and it has to be enough if you're giving your best shot. In your therapy, you include Hugo, right? We spoke about the Hugo. Yeah, that was something that I thought about a lot over the week that helped me. I won't lie to you. A little phrase that you said to me about small things versus big things and happiness. Could you talk to us a little bit about that? Because I think that is something that was very powerful.
Yoga is something that I use in life very often and definitely something that I use a lot with my patients. It comes from this author. His name is Mike Wykin. And he wrote this book it's a little book and it's actually called The Little Book of Yoga. Very creative, huh? And so in the book, he gives recommendations on how to live a happier life, basically, right? And what I was saying the last time, and I think it's worth repeating, is when we think of happiness, we always think of happiness as like a big boom in our life, a big change, going to another city, getting a promotion, I don't know, the big project that you always dreamed of, getting a huge amount of money. Huga is just the opposite. Don't focus on the big things, focus on the little things, because that's where true happiness lies, right? And I was saying, the big things, the big moments, like the ones I just mentioned, they don't happen very often, right? In our lives. But the things that we do every day, the everyday things, the daily things, like getting up, eating breakfast with your family or having lunch with them or dinner, um, going to the movies. So those little things, um, looking around where you live and finding little spots that bring happiness to you, like green areas or flowers. I think that's where the phrase comes from. Stop and smell the roses, right? That's exactly literally and metaphorically what it means. Is stop and take a deep breath, right? Just stop and look around you. Look at the amazing place you're in, the people that you have in front of you. Sometimes we are so busy with our phone in one hand and we're just scrolling or answering or doing whatever it is. We don't even look at people anymore. If you find, or if you set your mind to find those moments of happiness in your life is going to be so much more gratifying than if you keep waiting for the big promotion that's going to happen one day, the big project that's going to come one day, instead of I'm here with my family. This is what I have. Today is actually what we have. We don't know if tomorrow we're going to be here. And yesterday is gone. So we have today, right? This is what we have. So work with what you have, right? That's something that I like to tell my patients all the time. Something that helps me to get through the difficult days when I'm doing all these things and it's a really stressful day and like that. The little treats, right? And I was saying, for example, I got a haircut and I got my nails done. Um, little things like that. Maybe buying, if you drink a lot of coffee, getting a new cup or things that will make you feel good. That when you actually see those things, you get this sense of ah, everything is gonna be okay, right? So try to find those things in your life, 2 or 3 things that are constant reminders, that are everyday reminders of happiness in your life, and stick to those the days that you feel that you can't do it anymore. And that's going to get you through.
I feel like we just had a therapy session, you and I. So,
We did.
so I would believe that online therapy does work. What the advantages of doing online therapy? I know there are a lot of, in my mind, there are a lot of advantages. Um, but I know there's the traditional face-to-face, you're sitting in an office with someone, and then there is online, which would be similar to what you and I are doing now. We're just looking at each other on the phone or on your computer. Tell us a little about the differences there, and how do you think that online therapy is more advantageous to doing it face-to-face?
I am all pro online. I like everything online. When COVID was around, I was one of the few people that were happy that we were sent home to work because I was working face to face that time. And I know many people were frustrated because they couldn't go back to office. I was on vacation mode. I was really happy. It's like, yay, my dream came true. I can work from home. And then I never did go back face to face. So that worked out really well for me. So that said, I think that one of the things that has helped when it comes to giving the service online, I do sleep sessions. That's what I do. So I share a link and then they connect from wherever they are and we do the session through Zoom. Some people prefer face to face, and that's okay. I think it has to be um, something that you feel comfortable with. There has to be a certain chemistry between your therapist and yourself. And I don't mean it in a romantic way, but there has to be some kind of chemistry. Um, and you have to feel comfortable in the way that you do the therapy. So I understand and I respect people that want to do it face to face. But for those patients that I have had, it has worked out really well. They can connect from wherever they are, from the comfort of their own homes, in their pajamas if they want, or slippers, or people feel more comfortable because I don't know them and I don't know their friends. And many people have said it's good that you're far away because I don't want people here to, here in my community or in my country because it's a small country. So many people know each other. So it's like, yeah, it's good because, I don't want them to know that I'm doing this or ever. Or I don't want to share like private things with people in my community. So that has been a big plus that I've used to my advantage. And the results have been great so far.
Okay. You also do institutional training and you help different institutions both in Mexico and Belize, yes? Could you tell us a little bit about how that works and without naming anyone, I imagine, give us a little bit of what that is like. How does that work? How would you be able to help an institution in Belize with the work that you do?
That was actually the last phase that I included in the project of Reinventando Vidas. This year, I started to get in touch with different companies in Belize, and I've gotten a lot of response from them. The challenge has been actually getting to the part where the session is executed. So I feel like there's this like people are open for the possibility of doing this online. Some have asked me, are you coming to Belize? Can you do it face to face? And I said, I would love to go to Belize. I haven't been in Belize like for, I don't know, 7 years now. And so I used to go way more often. And that's a possibility in the future. Um, but for others, it has been like, yes, I'm interested. I want to do it. I know mental health is an important issue, but we have like an agenda. So we would have to find a spot that push you in there. So it's kind of like a new thing. This proposal that I have has been, actually convincing the people in charge that this is something that has to be included as part of it. So that's the message that I've been trying to get across is, you know what, just, I know this is mental health is important because of this. It's really important. It's going to give you these benefits with your staff. So it's kind of like that part of, getting them to understand and maybe to accept the fact that mental health is also a very important part of the performance of any person in the institution. Right. So that's the part that I'm working on. Hopefully soon I have had some sessions with some institutions. I would like to get to more and do more sessions. I'm working on that. That's the part that I've been working with. Here in Mexico, there's this institution that's called Grupo Loda. They work with another bigger institution that's called, I think it's Copermex, if I'm not mistaken. Um, and I'm also working with them, giving them seminars. They work with school. They train like principals and coordinators and like that. So they get the webinar and they can in turn share that information with parents and students and like that. So this one, the one I'm really looking forward to. We're doing one in December. Um, and that I'm really excited about that one. So we'll see how that one goes.
Okay. How would someone contact Carmelita if they wanted to get some training for their institution or do one-on-one sessions with you or family sessions with you or attend one of your webinars? Tell us how to contact you.
Yeah, thank you. I have a webinar that's coming up next week. Is it next week? Yeah, it's next week, the 9th of October. You're going to like this one, Rami. It's called How to Be Happy in an Unhappy World. And it's like what we have been talking about, and some of those ideas of looking at happiness from a different perspective and how you can start doing things as of today to start being happier, to have a happier life, and to enjoy more of the things that you do every day. Because sometimes it can get really tedious for you to be doing work and routine every day and like that. And there's the famous burnout and all of these things that are happening around the world. Um, so this is kind of like a ray of hope, a ray of sunshine, um, and focusing on how you can make this world a better place, how you can put your little grain of sand contributing to a better society, and how you can spread the message. Because I want more people to know about this. I want more people to know that it doesn't have to be a sad world. It doesn't have to be a boring world. Or if you are, at the end of your wits because you don't like your job, because you have other issues, money issues, etc., there are things that you can do to turn that around. That's the big message of that webinar. So I'm hoping that a lot of people are going to get on board. That's next week, Wednesday, from 7 to 8:30 p.m. Reach me at my WhatsApp number. It's plus 52 because it's a number from Mexico. So plus 52 22 19 47 98 81. It's 10 digits. It's a lot of numbers after that. And or email if you prefer. You can write to Reinventando Familias at gmail.com, or Facebook. You can find me on Facebook as Carmelita Ruiz Coello or Reinventando Vidas, and also in LinkedIn with LinkedIn. So there are a lot of ways that you can get in touch. Please do, if you need this kind of service, um, that will definitely change your life. I'm sure that it's going to bring a big change into your life, and it's worth doing it. It's worth going to therapy.
How many lives could have been saved? Those persons that took their own lives away could have had someone to help them through those deep, dark moments that a therapist can indeed help you with. And it all starts with the first step, or in this case, the first session. So sometimes we need to worry about our internal boo-boos too. So I do encourage listeners to reach out to yourself or to any therapist that they feel comfortable with, because as you said, it's about that connection. You can only tell your secrets to someone that you feel that trust in. I know that's a big part of it too. I'd like to thank you for giving us this amazing episode today. I believe that I personally am taking all the positive things that I can from this conversation with you. And I hope that our listeners take away some positive vibrations too. Like you say, higher vibrations is more positivity. So I'm hoping that for our listeners, and I hope that some of them do contact you and you can teach them to be happy with the little things. Meanwhile, they wait for that big thing, big happen.
Yeah, yeah, that's actually something that I always say is be happy with what you have until you get what you want, right? You can't afford therapy if that's what's keeping you back, right? First of all, get in touch. We can work something out. That's the first thing. Second thing is work with what you have in the sense of put all your resources together, get creative, and think about what can I do before I get to that day where I actually have the therapy, in case that's what I want. Uh, Support network, for example. Do I have people around me that can listen to me without judging in a loving way? Yes, I have my mom or my sister or my brother or whoever. Great. Keep those people close. Talk to them. You can start with that. You can start writing a journal. That's one that I love myself very, very much. Start writing. Writing is magic. Or you can spare $1 or $2. I don't know how much notebook costs, but you go get yourself a notebook and something to write with. I start journaling I'm gonna say, I hope it's not wrong to say this, but this is one of my what one of my mentors says. Journal the heck out of it, right? Just start journaling and write, and it's going to help you so much to clear your head because you take it from here and you put it on paper and you get it out of your system, and suddenly everything looks so much brighter. It's like, oh, it's not that horrible big black monster in front of me. It's just this little thing that I can, oh yeah, I can handle that. I can do that. All right. So those are little things that you can start doing as of today. You can't have access to therapy yet. Um, you can start doing those things.
Thank you for that, Carmelita. And I believe that you've taught us today that even when it comes to mental health, we are women who need to reach out and get help sometimes. We can't always do it all, even though we wish we could. We sometimes need that little help, and it's okay. It's okay to need help and ask for it. And especially when you know where to find it. Like now we know that Miss Carmelita exists and that she can help us, even if it's just guiding us in the right direction. Sometimes that's all you need. So thank you, Carmelita. We really do appreciate this conversation. It was really enlightening.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate the space. I really hope that this message gets to the people that need to hear this right now. You're doing a wonderful job, Rami. Remember to take breaks. Remember to rest some. Aquí en México decimos apapacharse, which is like, like give yourself some love. Also, we need that very often. Sometimes we give a lot of love, but we don't give it to ourselves. So give yourself that rest. Give yourself that love. And you're doing great. Just keep going. Keep going at doing what you're doing. You're doing wonderful.
Thank you. Again, thank you. And I'll see you on the next episode.
Bye-bye. Bye.
If you've enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to the podcast and leave us a review. Your support helps us to reach more listeners and continue to share these important stories. I'm Ramachia, and I'll see you on the next episode. Until then, keep dreaming big, breaking barriers, and blazing your own trails.